Bella Rain, she is with her mother watching Moana. My people, thank you for watching, and thank you for liking and sharing the video. That's hope all is well, everybody. Your boy GizzyCredit here. Alrighty, where is this video coming from? Just had it here. Oh, right here. Listen, how you be? I hope you be well, and I hope you are doing well. All right. On my Facebook, there's this new thing on Facebook where I can't really see who's watching, like the old time. So I can't really see who's watching on Facebook, but whoever's watching, hello. YouTube already got a couple of people. Thank you so much for logging on. My name is GizzyCredit. Help people with their credit here for 10 years. And we want to keep you guys educated on what's going on, especially with the Rona breakdown of things that are happening in the financial area of your credit and helping you navigate that so you'll be better prepared when it's time for you to make some moves. All right, so let's get this going. I'm going to get my partner on the phone, and we'll do this real quick.
Hello?
Hey, John, how you doing?
Good, how you
doing? Good. Over here again. Getting myself ready. Got some people on YouTube and on Facebook. Facebook, I can't really see who's watching, but there's people watching. Let people know that we're going to be on today. Today's topic is going to be on the PPP. It could be payroll or a Paycheck Protection Program of what the government is offering business owners. Whether you're a sole proprietor or you're a big business, we're going to go into that program right now. I'm going to first start off by telling you guys, my name is Guillermo. This is John. We help people with their credit here for the last 10 years, and we do it every day. Someone starts credit repair with us on a daily basis. We also have other products that are like the $99 do-it-yourself credit repair system, or the $99 credit card funding system that teaches you how to get high-limit credit cards. But we like to do these podcasts so that you can be educated on how things are working right now, especially with the virus and what's happening with that. So I'll let John explain to you, because John has had a lot of customers in the past, and they reach out to him because he is an expert in what's going on, and we help position people to do what they want to do with their credit. So, John, is there anything that you want to say?
Well, I mean, I think each one of our, these live casts, one kind of leads into the next, and then the last one, as more and more information has become available regarding these SBA programs, as recent as last Monday, where it wasn't the actual bill itself hadn't been entirely released yet. It's been a slow evolution, especially for the PPP program. Like you said earlier, which is Payroll Protection Program. The general idea, it's been an evolving thing every single day leading up to the point we're at right now. And, I'm sure there's people that are going to listen to this and that are in the same boat of what I'm going to describe. So I have a lot of clients, like Gizzy was saying, where they own retail. They've been in the retail business and they run really, really good businesses. But unfortunately, because of the fact of they were effectively shut down, they have no access to capital. They can't even sell their stuff on Amazon right now because, when the economy shut down, the economy shuts down. I mean, there's some people buying on Amazon, but not nearly the massive quantity you would see on a regular basis. So they can't even sell the stuff off, for cost in a lot of cases at a wholesale price just to pay back the supplier. And this is working its way all the way up and down the supply chain. I mean, from retail to wholesale to even below that. I mean, you're seeing problems up and down the line. And obviously, as a result, government wanted to come out with this PPP program. So just to back up for a second, the idea behind this is strictly that, when they originally proposed it, it was at $350 billion is going towards small business lending, right? So
Correct.
You hear that number, $350 billion. Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, was all over television, and any outlet that would listen to him, that they're just basically going to pepper the entire country with money, for small businesses and so on and so forth.
Yes.
And there's always a catch, and they were going to do it in 24 to 48 hours. Now, and I've talked about this before in previous, casts we did. We did it, the one before that. I said, there's just no way it's going to work out the way they said it. There's just no way. They set the expectation entirely too high, and that expectation they set was that you apply, you're going to get money in effectively in 24 to 48 hours, which is obscene and ridiculous, right? I mean, especially when you're dealing with the SBA. Even if you were dealing with just a bank institution, it would be difficult to get it in 24 hours, even if it was just one person walking in that day to get a loan, right? I mean, that alone would be with no red tape to have to cross over. So, I mean, in this case, they basically told, I think there's 2,200 lending institutions that you can go in, because you have to go through an actual lending institution that's approved by SBA in order to get one of these PPP loans. It's not like the disaster loans. The disaster loans were something that was approved second week of March, goes up to $50,000, and you get them directly from the SBA. We talked about them in a previous cast as well. The PPP loans are totally different. You have to get it through an approved institution, and as a result, you can apply that way. Now, they didn't tell how they were going to arrive at their number. It wasn't released until Wednesday, how they were going to arrive at how much somebody was going to get approved for. So people were, salivating at the idea of $350 billion. Seems like a large amount of money, and it is. But when you're talking about, however many small businesses, medium businesses there are, so basically anybody 500 employees and below could effectively apply for this PPP loan, right?
Yes.
And it was determined that they basically, when they first released it on Wednesday, it was that it's supposed to cover your payroll for a month. And any incidentals, and they're going to basically lend you 250% of that, which is effectively 2.5 times, right?
Okay.
So if you had $10,000 in payroll, they would effectively lend you $25,000, which the idea would be that it would hold you over for the next 2 months. If they give you 25, it would give you obviously 2 months of 10. Plus a floater for the additional 5 that's going to hopefully will cover you for incidentals, right? That's where that 250% came from. Now that's a far cry from $350 billion we're peppering the country, right? Obviously it's a holdover, but then it turns into a Band-Aid. Everybody was, every client I talked to was trying to get, an SBA numbered loan, right? Where, they're quantifying it off your true income and your financials and so on and so forth. So
credit had to be, this goes by credit.
No, there's no credit requirement on this PPP loan, 0. On the other one, there is.
I thought there was the one before.
The disaster one, I'm pretty sure there was, I had a client come back and say that she was having trouble in her state with the disaster loans because she needed at least she was a newer client and she needed at least a 575.
Okay.
So for the PPP ones, there is no credit requirement as far as I haven't seen anything anywhere, not even that's been released. So hold on, let me just finish this. So we get to, now this is at Wednesday when they pop out about the 250%, they finally release that. It's supposed to be ready to be submitted Friday.
Okay.
Then come Thursday, you find out a little more. They'll include your rent if you're a tenant. They'll include if you own an office building. They'll include your mortgage, and they'll also include if you're an individual and you're paying yourself a salary. They'll also include that in it, right?
Yeah.
So obviously now you're businesses that probably shouldn't even qualify are considering doing it, because why not? You're basically covering everything at that point, right? Or at least the way they're trying to, propose it. So Friday, late Thursday, this is all on the fly. This is the government, by the way. I mean, it's crazy. So late Thursday, as far as I know, they released that, the program's going to be available Friday at 12 o'clock. Okay. So I have a bunch of clients in New York, and they bank with Chase. Chase is, the bank in New York, right? And they're the biggest bank in the country. So talked with a couple of the reps over there. We were able to find the site. There's a specific site on the Chase site. It's called like Chase Cares or something recovery, where you'd have to go to submit it and so on and so forth. So 12 o'clock comes on. I get to my computer a little after I get ready to submit for a couple of clients. Yeah. The site is already crashed.
Oh, wow.
They got hit with so much volume. The site crashed like 15, 20 minutes after it came live. Then it didn't open up till like 3:30 later that day. Then 3:30, I get him because there was an email to a rep over there, like, listen, what's going on here? Comes back at roughly 3:30. Comes back and says, all right, it's back up and running. You submit it, and this is the kicker. So you submit it, and you get an automated message. So somebody from Chase will reach back out to you. Please understand we got a number of requests, so please be aware of that, and so on and so forth. So in essence, we had to wait all that time to get these people submitted. They haven't even gotten submitted yet because you can't submit it yourself. There's no portal that they allow you to do. So you literally had to go through an institution. And what we're becoming aware of, thanks to Bank of America, is that they're front-running their prime clients, right? So they're saying, listen, we're going to work on our clients first, and then anybody else that, is somewhat of a client or an outside client will submit you later. But what it's starting to smell a lot more like is that they're probably taking care of the big businesses that bring a lot more big business to them. And, the people that are the smaller guys are getting pushed to the side. Now, here's the kicker. Bank of America alone said that they've submitted 166,000 loans as of today, worth almost $40 billion. That was about 2 o'clock today. That's just wow. Bank of America. And I know that the clients that are submitted on Friday still haven't been called by Chase. And I don't know anybody. Okay. And this, again, I got clients all over the country. We got clients all over the country.
Yes.
I haven't heard anybody that's been funded by either program yet. Not the disaster loan program from 3 weeks ago, nor this program. And nobody can confirm and or deny if they've gotten any money from either program yet. Now, keep in mind that this is a program, both programs were supposed to effectively fund overnight, right? I mean, this was supposed to be immediate liquidity available, money in your pocket tomorrow. It's not tomorrow, it's the next day. We're going to move this wall to make sure that we get this money to you, so on and so forth, and whatever. So I think that the problem is that, and I understand why they did it. They did it in order to calm the markets. They did it in order to get Main Street to take a deep breath, but they set an expectation that was virtually, and I talked about this in previous cases, virtually impossible to match, right?
Yes.
I mean, they priced to the most ideal situation, so disappointment was imminent, right? And I think the problem that you're going to find is that over the next week to 2 weeks to 2.5 weeks, you're going to see that money run out of the $350 billion, because the way they originally proposed it is they said that the first week, sole proprietors and 1099 contractors can't apply. It's only businesses, right? And then they said the second week, they'll start working in the sole proprietors and contractors, right? Well, I don't even see, they're not even through the first batch yet. We're already in the second week. Effectively we're not a full second week, but we are the second week because they should have already started funding loans, based upon what they had projected, right?
Yes.
I think what's really going to happen is ultimately what's going to happen is going to run out of money, and the people that were earmarked for that money probably are not going to get it for probably 2 weeks. I think that's probably a reasonable turnaround because there's banks already rejecting it. Fifth Third came out over the weekend and was like, we're not participating in this program. It's far too much risk for us. It's far too much exposure. We're not getting the platform that was set up is problematic. So, I mean, there was absolutely no discounting for any kind of technical issues that could have come in, plus the fact that the banks would provide a lot of this stuff on Wednesday, and they were supposed to be pumping out loans Friday, and there was really no grace period in the middle in order to be able to substantiate. Now, I think it's great that there's no credit requirement. I think the liquidity, even if they can get the liquidity out in the next 3 weeks to a lot of the businesses, I think that'll be helpful, right?
Yeah.
Sometime in the month of April, because they're getting a lot of concessions. I just think it's extremely reckless to, when you have certain people, because again, and I talked about this one client on the last podcast. I spoke to a guy last week that does $20 million a year.
Yes.
He's a wholesaler he's a wholesaler of like retail goods, right? Bags, shoes, etc. And he was having that conversation, right? You're talking to a company that does $20 million. So there's a tremendous amount big companies here that are just in need as the smaller companies, right? Because they've effectively been shut. The whole retail space has been effectively shut down, along with the restaurant space and the tourism space. So, I mean, you're talking about people that desperately need it. So I just hope that I think more realistic is 2 to 3 weeks from probably Friday will be the first. I can't imagine it's going to be anytime sooner than that. Because, again, I haven't heard anybody that's gotten funded on the disaster loans yet. And they were the ones from the second week in March. So I just don't know how, with all the technical issues, with all the banks not wanting to take on this risk type issue, because it's basically being shoved down their throat, right?
Yes.
The SBA basically guarantees a portion of the loan, but the bank's still on the hook for some of that loan. Right, so the bank isn't just giving the loan out, and they're just acting as a conduit. They get a fee in the middle. The interest is light. Some of it's going to be a grant, but some of it's not. Right. So I mean, the bank is still going to be responsible for some of this, and they're trying to get them to fly through underwriting and just to get it out the door. And the bank's like, listen, we're not in the business of losing money, right? So I mean, it's a really difficult dichotomy that's going on right now, and unfortunately, the people that are going to be most impacted are the ones that are waiting. Right? Just waiting.
Yeah. No, they're in limbo.
The complete limbo. But here's the problem. They don't know that they're in limbo because a lot of them believe what they see on TV, and they believe that, they believe that once they get it submitted, it'll be there in 24 to 48 hours, And unfortunately, even the people, Bank of America has been the only bank that I'm aware of that's been completely fluid with their applications. And they said that, they did, like I told you earlier, I think as of 3 o'clock, there's 166,000 applications submitted worth about $40 billion. So that's effectively 10% of the entire amount, right?
Yeah.
Already accounted for in 48 hours, not even 48, 36 hours from one institution, right? But what they said in the same report, somebody released those numbers, and none of them said that they had how much had already been funded, because there hasn't been any, and none of them even said how many of them even had loan numbers. So effectively, the process for SBA is when you get approved, you get a loan number that goes into the SBA system, and then there's more logistical stuff that occurs after that. They don't even know how many loan numbers have been established yet based upon just Bank of America. It's 166,000 applications. So, I mean, you're talking about a situation that's going to they're going to need to reset expectations, and I just hope in the interim that these checks for the households come out, right?
Yeah.
The $1,200 checks. They said, we think, I heard Kudlow on TV today, the economic advisor for the White House, who said he thinks the checks are going out this week. Who knows if that's true, right? I mean, it'd be great if it came out this week for people. It'd be great if some of these people that are waiting on the SBA loans can at least get something from the government, and some of this stuff can start to materialize, right? But unfortunately, you just don't know. And at this stage in the game,
but is the government in control, or the banks are in control of this?
No. So what happens is Treasury earmarks a certain amount of money that they're going to pump through the SBA. So $350 billion is lent through the SBA. Treasury doesn't lend money, right? So the Treasury effectively turns around and allocates that $350 billion to be lent to the SBA. The SBA always, and again, I talked about this on a previous podcast, what was really weird about the disaster loans, the ones that came out in the second week of March, was that the SBA was lending them themselves. It's very unusual because the SBA always lends through a conduit, which is a bank, right? They always lend through some lending institution, and then they insure portions of the loan, right? So the fact that they were lending it themselves, I'm like, I don't know how they'd be prepared to do this. And I said, you go back in one of the casts before, once I found out about it, I said, there's no way they're going to be able to do this because they're not going to be able to handle the volume. They don't have the manpower. They're not set up like that. And of course, again, I haven't heard anybody that's been funded. I could be wrong. If anybody has that's listening to this, please speak up. But I haven't heard about anybody. None of my clients that have submitted have seen anything from there. And it's been more than enough time. But I mean, at the same time, I just think that when they allocate the money to the SBA then in turn lends to these 2,200 in nationwide institutions. Could be Chase. They're already approved for the SBA. You understand what I mean? They're approved to fund SBA loans.
Okay.
So they're just literally working through their existing, and then they said that any banks that aren't set up with them can sign up for the SBA, and the SBA pumping through. I don't think anybody's doing this purposely, right? Do you understand what I mean? Like, I don't think they're dragging their feet. I think what's happening is that they made a bunch of large promises that they're not capable of coming through on in the amount of time they need to come through on, right?
Yes.
And then ultimately they set the expectation way too high. And anytime you set expectations that high, disappointment is guaranteed, and that's where they're at right now. I mean, we're already at 48 hours. There's still nobody got funded as far as I know. So we've already missed that deadline. And I think the reality of the situation is you're looking even at the early goers, maybe, like I said, end of the week or early the following week, which will put you around 2 weeks. And I think that's real. And I think the more that you get into them, if there's any money left after the first couple days, I think, those are going to probably even move slower because they're going to get a routine in place. Right now, they're just doing it haphazardly just to get money out on the street, doing anything they can to get it out. They're just not moving as fast as promised. And I just think they're, as much good as they were trying to do with getting this all set up, I just think there should have been a proper expectation set, because I think that, there's a difference between, a 500 employees medium business, right?
Yes.
Medium-sized business that does, let's just say, $80 or $90 million a year and has a line of credit to lean on, right?
Yes.
And it might have a $15-20 million line of credit to lean back on. When they submit, they have some breathing room, right? The problem is that, you get some of these smaller businesses that do, a couple $100,000 a year, maybe $1 million a year. They're not running with lines like that, right? They weren't positioned for this kind of a situation because they didn't see it coming.
Yes.
And either they weren't able to position themselves in a situation like this, or they weren't prepared to, or a combination of both. But now they're the ones that are sitting there like, listen, we need to get this through. And unfortunately, it's just not playing out that way. So, hopefully in the near future, they get their act together and things start to actually materialize the way they promised. I just think there's going to be a new expectation set. You're going to start to see a lot of pushback. If the money doesn't start coming out by the end of this week, you're going to start to see a lot of people start to push back.
And
because
complaining.
I think they're giving a little bit of flex right now, a little bit of leash as a country, just in the hopes that maybe they just missed their mark a hair, right? Like they're telling you for 24 to 48 hours. We get to the end of the week and there's still a very sparse funding scenario here, then you're going to start seeing people really, really push back, especially if those checks from the government haven't come out yet. You know what I mean? Because then you're sitting in a situation where now we're 2.5 weeks since the bill's been approved. There's no money coming out, right?
But what happens to those people that got laid off? Because there's how many million people already that got laid off?
10 million when they get laid off, they file for unemployment.
So if those people are off the books from their jobs, I mean, you're getting this loan because you haven't gotten rid of these employees. Right. So
two things. One, a lot of the people that got let go were part of if you looked at the non-farm payrolls from Friday that got released, like 80% of them are from tourism and hospitality, which is restaurants and hotels, right?
Yeah.
A very small portion was split up among the difference. You understand what I'm saying? So there's no way that the restaurants could stay open and keep it on through a shutdown. Like, it's not capable. You understand what I mean? Like, there was no way they could keep the people on. It's just not possible because they weren't earning anything. It was more catered towards a situation of people that were running a business, like a retail business, you know what I mean? That's not necessarily a restaurant or something where you're still bringing enough money and they don't want you to let go of those people. And the way they're trying to reward you is through doing it this way. But it's just like you said, look, it was 10.6 million claims approximately in the last 2 weeks. Unemployment claims. That equals almost the total amount for the previous year and the total amount for the year before that. Not combined, but individual. So back in 18 and in 19 and 18, the claims were like 11 million total for the entire year and 12 million total for the entire year. We did almost 11 in 2 weeks.
Wow.
So, and trust me, the one for this week's going to be just as bad. So they release them every week. I bet you it went from 3 million 2 weeks ago, 3 and change, to this past week. It was another ridiculous number, maybe 7 or 8, something like that, roughly. It was a situation. Chances are that's going to continue to incline, right? They're projecting unemployment somewhere in the 27 to 30% range.
Yeah.
Coming out of this. So you're talking about, it's going to, and I think that personally, I think that's probably a conservative estimate. It's not taking into consideration people that weren't getting paid a wage. You understand what I mean? people that were getting paid cash or something like that have been laid off too. That's not even taking them into consideration, because there's a lot of them, and if you really try to calculate the true number, I bet you it's going to be way higher than that. So,
and these are part-timers. And from what we know, we're going to be, quarantined till the 29th or, after mid-May.
I know Florida's now until the 15th of May. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, but every state seems different. And the president specifically said that, he's letting the governors control their own states. Right. So every state's a little different. But I can't imagine they'll deviate that greatly. Right. Because the ones that are being lax about it are learning that it's ultimately making its way to their part of the woods. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And they're having to play from behind. So why chance it at this stage in the game? It just makes no sense. But I can't say it enough, man. I'm frustrated for the clients that I have, that the clients that we have that come over and they were expecting and they were relying on the fact that this was going to be exactly as advertised, and unfortunately it's just not. So I really hope they come through on the backside of this in some form or fashion. And like I talked about last week, it's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough money. They're going to have to come out with another one. They already know about it. There's a very small chance that this amount of money is going to be enough. So there's definitely going to be another stimulus that's going to come. Probably, what month are we in now?
We're April 6th.
We're April, yeah. I mean, we're still knee deep in this. I mean, let's just say for
argument's sake, we just started. We're just like 30% into it, probably.
Yeah, let's just say if you believe the media, right, and you believe what everybody's telling you, that New York is going to peak this week, and let's just say over the course of the remainder of the month, other states in our country peak, right? And let's just say April is a month of just peaking and getting on the other side of that mountain. That mountain's still pretty steep on the way down, right? I mean, you're not just running outside just because the peak goes down. They're going to still keep you in the house. But listen, you go outside, you do the opposite. You're just going to reignite a flame that was already put out, right? Yes. Or it was at least dulled, right? So, I mean, easy end of May. Easy. I mean, you look at China, right? China wanted to give everybody the impression they were back up and running full force. They're not they're back up and running. They're not full force. And they just recently stopped people from going to, they shut down their movie theaters after they'd opened them back up. You get into stuff like this, you start saying to yourself, this is not going to be a spring back, right? I mean, I can't speak for anywhere else in the country, but every time I go out now, I mean, go to the supermarket, people are dressed up in robot uniforms now, man. I mean, you got the face mask, the gloves.
I got to do it. I'm in Jersey. I'm in Bergen County, where it hit the most hard in Jersey. I got to do it.
Yeah, I mean, look, it is what it is. I'm just saying that you don't get people this into a situation where they're literally putting on a costume before they leave the house, and they're just going to wake up one day and be like, you know what, I'm good, and take off the costume. It's not going to work like that. The psychology behind people that have gotten to that point is the fact that it's affected them, right?
Yes.
It's left a scar psychologically. And that coronavirus is a trigger word. So that's always going to trigger it. Anytime that word comes up, it's going to naturally trigger that concern inside their head. Yes. About germs and about catching the virus, and just immediate anxiety is going to come over them. So there's just no way. There's absolutely no way that we just snap back. And the reason I'm saying all this is because it's inevitable that another stimulus is going to come out. And quite honestly, I don't think the second one's going to be enough. I think what's going to happen is they're going to come out with a second one, and that one's going to probably ride us into the holidays. And I think what's going to ultimately end up happening is that their silver bullet at the end of the day is an infrastructure bill. It was the same thing that was done back in the Great Depression when everything was bad. And I'm not saying we're in the Great Depression. I'm just saying, how do you kickstart an economy, right?
Yes.
And this is how you do it. An infrastructure bill is effectively what happens is, like, Congress sets aside all this money, and you go and you rebuild all the roads, you rebuild all the bridges, and it immediately puts people on the couch to work,
yes.
Right? And you get paid government wages. That's not like the guy, on the side of the street that's paying. Government wages are paid well, right? So they'll find people that'll come facilitate it. They'll get all these people off the couch, sitting at home, that haven't wanted to leave for any number of reasons. You'll get benefits. You'll get all this different stuff. And it's exactly how you get the economy going, because in effect, people will start earning again, right?
Yes.
And then people will start spending again. and people won't be scared. So it'll slowly force the economy, and the government will hold the hand and be the training wheel to get it back up and running. I don't see how else this is going to work, right? To really, I know that this is going to pass, right? I think we can all agree it's going to pass at some point in time, meaning the virus. That doesn't mean, though, that psychologically it's going to pass. You understand what I mean?
Yes.
Like you get situations where, I don't know if you've ever heard of the 80-20 rule, but, the 80-20 rule effectively, basically says that, 80% of the people, I'm speaking layman's terms and generalizing it, but 80% of the people think in a certain way, and 20% of the people think in an abstract way, which is normally right, because 80% represent the herd, and the herd mentality is almost always wrong. Almost always.
Correct.
Almost always. And they represent the 80%, the herd. So if you think about that, and everybody thinks, a certain amount of people think alike, then you have to start looking at it from the perspective of 80% of the people are going to come out of this, and they're going to be impacted exponentially, right? Whether they get the green light or not. Whether we wake up one day and there's a vaccine for this, they're still going to be impacted by it. Because they're going to be like, well, what's the next one, right?
Oof.
When's the next one coming around? Or how did we prevent the next one from happening? All right, we need to stand 8 feet away from it. Okay.
Is it seasonal?
What's that?
Is it seasonal?
Exactly. But even when that goes, it's now on the radar of everyone, right? The idea of cleanliness, the idea of virus, the idea of germ, the idea of the kind of impact that it can have, and the flare up and the just exacerbated spreading.
It's at home. My mom's pastor passed away on Saturday, so it is real. People are dying.
No. There's no. I said that from the first time. I said this is a legitimate virus that's legitimately hurting people, right? I mean,
Yes.
there was no question about whether this thing was real or not. I hope there wasn't any question about whether it was real. It's definitely real, and it's definitely legitimate. I think that. I think things probably could have been handled differently, but I think even if they were handled differently, I think we still would have been tainted here. Maybe it would have lessened in severity. Who knows? But I think this is where we're at, and I think now we need to try and figure it out. I do think, though, however, as enthusiastic as everybody wants to be, thinking economically speaking, coming out of this, I just don't know. I don't know how. Look, coronavirus or no coronavirus, I have thought flying on commercial planes is like one of the most disgusting things ever, right? I mean, I've flown a ton of times forever, like since I was a child, but it's so gross. They just recycle the air in the airplane, right? So in essence, that ventilation system is just recycling of people coughing and people, they come in with colds. I get off, almost every plane I get off, I would have a cold. So now, and most people look at it the same way, right? You come in there, you try to take some kind of an immune system booster before you get on it, in the hopes that when you get off, you don't get sick this time. But it's inevitable because they're just disgusting vehicles, right? I mean, for the most part, as far as ventilation is concerned, because of the limitations that the vehicles themselves have. Problem is, how are you going to get somebody after all this, knowing that? How are you going to get somebody to get back on a plane?
Cheap tickets, Jay.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, how are you going to get them to go? What are they going to wear an astronaut mask? You can't wear an astronaut helmet with your own self ventilator. You can't get in an airport without, they don't even let you have a cologne. You got to walk on with a whole Power Ranger suit and get on the airplane. It's not going to happen. It's just not. It's not going to happen. I don't see. I just cannot envision. I cannot envision. I can't envision. I think the airlines are going to have a lot of difficulty. I really do. And, I'm not trying to paint a grim picture here. I just think that I think that there's going to be, once we can get businesses back and solidified and capitalized, I think then we can start working on reacclimating people. And I think it's going to be a 2 or 3 stage process, quite honestly. So, you hope for the best, and you plan accordingly on the downside as far as trying to prepare the best you can. And I think part of that, in my opinion, would have been the government properly setting expectations, right, for this funding for people. And I also think they need to stop blowing smoke in people's backsides about saying that this is just going to recoil in the third quarter and everybody's going to run out of their house and start just paper in the streets with money. I just don't see that. I mean, you're effectively changing these last 8 weeks and going into next month as well. You're effectively changing. As human beings, we're monotonous, right?
Yeah.
And we're creatures of monotony. Monotony allows us to set a plan. It allows us to get into a routine, which gives people comfort psychologically, right? So
yes.
we've literally changed our entire routine over the last 8 weeks.
Oh yeah.
And it's only going to get more bold going into the 12th week. And if we don't get out of the house in the summer, you might be looking at 5 months of people going through a brand new routine, which involves staying at home, being more economically, viable, which, by the way, I think is a good thing. All these different things, all these behaviors that literally were reverse engineered from where they were at 6 months ago, right? When the consumer was carrying the economy and people were spending freely and all these different things happened where the consumer was the best thing in the world if you were corporate America and so on and so forth. Now you literally just reverse engineered everything that went on there, and they're basically a totally different person they were 6 months ago, right?
Yeah, someone just finished saying, I hear that they are going to start releasing the EIDL funds later this week. I'm in line. You know about that?
Yeah, him and 75 million other people. I mean, there's a long line there. So, and that was $50 billion that was earmarked for that. That's the disaster loan stuff. So
the disaster loan.
The disaster loan from the second week of March, by the way. He or she heard that they're going to release it this week. That was 3 weeks ago, almost a month ago, and they were supposed to be quick loans. So, I mean, just do the math, right? I mean, if that loan, which literally required no underwriting whatsoever, is taking this long, how long do you think these PPPs are going to take? I mean, we'll see, right? We'll see. But I just think.
You currently put some people through the process already, or you're just waiting on what's the next step? Like the bank is going to reply back and tell you what's going on.
Are you talking about me?
Yeah, you're.
Yeah, no, I've submitted a number of clients for that program he just detailed, the disaster loan. He called it the EIDL. I don't know what the EI stands for, but obviously the DL and the acronym is disaster loan. I mean, everyone calls it a different thing, but that's it. I've submitted a number of clients that none of them have been funded. None of them even gotten a follow-up email. Like, listen, your funds will be coming in the next 2 weeks. We received your application. We processed it. Expect your funds. Nothing. Not even a burp. So the clients that were submitted on Friday, when the PPP opened, they have to get contacted by a bank representative because the bank has to submit that. The disaster loan goes directly through the SBA, right?
Yes.
So your bank has to submit it for you. You can't do it yourself like you would with the disaster loans. See, I submitted them directly for them through the disaster loans, right? So they there was no delay in that application process. This one, now they have to wait with Chase because these were Chase clients. You submit to there, and then it says the immediate response is a Chase representative will be back in touch with you. Please understand due to the inordinate amount of blah 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 blah.
Yep.
Somebody will get back to you as soon as we can. Well, that could be Friday. I mean, think about it. Chase is the biggest bank in the entire, I think, definitely in our country, possibly in the world. I haven't looked recently. And as a result of that, I mean, think how many people applied for that. I know Bank of America said they've processed 166,000 applications in not even 2 business days, a day and a half. They're not done processing either. Think about if their site crashed in 15 or 20 minutes and then it opened. So
what's the total amount that people can get, though? Can they get, like, is there a specific amount? Like,
I think 10 million is the max.
10 million is the max.
10 mil is the max. It tops out at 10 million. But obviously, you'd have to be really turning a profit to be a 2.5 time multiplier to get 10 million, right? So you'd have to be doing about, 4 million? You'd have to be doing 4 million a month. So you have to be generating about $48 million a year annually in revenue. Well, no, no, not even just your payroll would have to be. What am I talking about? Your payroll over, your rent, whatever other little nominals you can fit in. There has to be 4 million a month in order to get the 10 million max. So, but there is no minimum, obviously, and we'll see.
This is like a business like Boeing who's asking for a loan. They'll get it first before anybody.
That's a different program. That's totally different. They earmarked money strictly for the airlines and for Boeing. and all that stuff. That's a totally different program. The SBA is for small business. Small business is categorized as any business with 500 employees or less.
Yeah,
Boeing is
the
a Fortune
disaster
500
loan,
company.
economic injury disaster loan,
Yeah, it's
EIDL.
the same thing. It's the same thing. It's just not the same exact thing. So again, if you're one of the people that applied in the beginning, then understand that there is a long and arduous line behind you. So if they say they start funding the end of this month, just keep in mind that they promised the people of the United States of America 2 weeks ago that they were going to give them checks for $1,200, and that's taken them 3 weeks. And that money's sitting there waiting to be cut. How long do you think it's going to take them? They're telling you it's the end of this week. Which I haven't personally heard that, but I'm not saying it's wrong. There's just so much misinformation flying out about this on a regular basis, and just so much unnecessary confusion that exists. There's just, like I said, clients of mine weeks on this disaster loan. It's unfortunate. I just think the one thing that they could do, and I understand why they did it. Again, it's a damned if you do, and it's a lot easier for me being an armchair quarterback, so I get it. I'm not the one having to make the decision and deal with it, but
correct.
I just don't know that inflating expectations is at a time like this is really helping the situation if you're not going to be capable of following through with it. You know what I mean? I think that we'll see, and the jury's still out. But I know at least with the disaster loans, that's been that hasn't been what was advertised as far as I know. So we'll see.
Money is going to come. There is money put aside.
No, without question. Money, the $1,200 or however much each individual household's going to get is definitely going to come. But that's what I'm saying. But think about the different response. So they said, listen, guys, this process it's probably going to take a week to 2 weeks, rather than saying it's going to take 1 to 2 days.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, even if they missed a little bit and they went 2.5 weeks, well, you're still psychologically setting somebody's expectation. It could be 1 to 2 weeks. 1 week best case scenario, 2 weeks worst case scenario. If they exceed it, they look incredible, right? But the problem is that that's probably more likely what's going to happen rather than 24 to 48. And as a result, you got people that are just, like I said, wait till the end of this week.
Jay, the money is going to become eventually a grant, but that's if you survive and stay in business. No. The
grant only applies if you don't lay anybody off. So
how about people are businesses that are like, I'm about to go down under. I might as well get this money and then close everything.
Now you're understanding what I'm trying to explain to you. So in one breath, they're shutting you down governmentally, right? They're federally shutting you down. They're making you close. They're not giving you an option. So that's the first kick in the nuts. Then secondly, they're saying, listen, if you keep people on, first they had to wait through the week and a half it took Congress to even approve this, right? And then the 4 or 5 days for them to sign it, which is a full 2 weeks beginning to end. The whole time they're saying, listen, don't fire people. We got it coming for you. Then finally they get it approved. They say, we're going to get it out to you in 1 to 2 days. And now here we are in a situation where it's a bit of a show, right?
Yes.
Meaning like it's a shit show. It's a shit show because there's just new things coming up every minute. Banks are backing out. Things aren't being funded in 24 hours. The expectation was set too high. So imagine being the guy that has 7 or 8 or 9 employees that's trying to keep them on, right? And he's doing it because he believes what they're telling him. And he's coming out of pocket to do it.
Yeah.
That's a problem, right? Because now you're making a bad situation worse. In a normal economic scenario, you would logistically say, look, things are slow, guys. I'm going to have to lay you off until I can bring you back in, right? So in essence, not only did the government shut it down, but the government said, keep them on the books and we'll lend you money, but you won't have to pay back as long as you keep them on the books. How much of that money they're getting, is that just them reimbursing themselves?
Correct.
Right? And much less a loan, but in essence, just reimbursing themselves for the last month and a half it's taken to get to this point, and that's not going to take care of the next 2 months. It's a problem, man. I'm telling you, that's why it's inevitable. They already know. That's why, if you remember, after we did our cast last week, and I was saying the whole time, like, there's no way it's going to work.
Yeah.
Monetarily, they're going to have to come out with another stimulus. And you're like, really? You think? And I'm like, you're like, it's $2 trillion. I'm like, I'm telling you, it's not going to be enough because the original, when they started putting this together in the middle of March, the seriousness of the virus was not present in people's minds, right? Nobody thought it was going to get to this point, even the second week of March. So it's far exceeded what they expected. And the bill that they put together was based upon that initial expectation. So outside of even that, it's just not going to be enough. So they're going to have to go back. They've already started talking about it. I sent you that link, if you remember, the day after we got off.
MSNBC link, yes.
The day after we got off the cast last time, where it said, White House already mulling an additional stimulus measure, and this is before they even released the money on the first one yet, or the last one, the $2 trillion one. So I mean, it's going to be a very creative time going forward for the businesses that are impacted by this,
Yeah.
and as it ties back to clients of ours, we just try to do our best to try and help them facilitate stuff like this. As an additional courtesy, we don't need to monetize everything we do with our clients, and especially in situations like this where we can try and assist and we can try and help bridge that gap if it's possible for them. I mean, that's exactly what we've been doing with these particular SBA loans and these emergency loans that they need. I just hope they start coming through for them. I really do, because I think you're going to get to a point real soon of, just based upon the conversations I've had with existing clients, you're going to get to a point real soon where there's going to be people upset, and if the sample of people that I'm referring to, which if you go back to the 80-20 rule, represents 80% of all the people applying, you would have to think they're all feeling the same way, right? And they're all arriving at the same frustration collectively. And there's going to be a point, if this doesn't start funneling through and filtering through as advertised, you're going to start getting some real dissent. You know what I mean?
Yes. I have someone here who has a credit question. Hey, Gizzy, what's up, bro? I got a question. Do you fix things like check systems or early warnings? Do you do that?
No. You can't. I mean, it's not number one, early warning. I don't think early warning is the updated version of check systems. So early warning is check systems was like the 80s. Early warning is the modern version of that. And it works outside of just, writing bad checks.
That's how the banks communicate with each other on the DL.
Check systems is like that, and so is early warning is like that. It's just early warning. Check systems was a bit of an antiquated model, which it still works. Some still use it depending on the institution. Some use it in conjunction with early warning, because early warning isn't just charging off checking accounts, which was the idea behind check systems, right? Check systems was the idea that you were somebody that was just a serial, open up a checking account in an institution, charge it off, and then go to the next one, right? And then work your way around. So to prevent loss from institution to institution, they did this to prevent exposure, right? If somebody was habitual at doing it and these banks not continue to sustain losses, early warning is totally different. The early warning is like, it goes beyond just the checking accounts and stuff. It goes into like historically charging off cards and stuff. I mean, it's a much more advanced.
Oh wow!
Risk.
Like credit cards, like check system is just for checks, but early warning is the whole, like your credit report, but early warning.
It's not your whole credit report, but it is a much more advanced. And a lot of them are starting to incorporate. I started seeing it more this year than I've ever seen it before. With them incorporating the early warning into the decisions to open up, especially credit unions. I've seen credit unions use it a lot, and for obvious reasons. And I'm also seeing other institutions start to incorporate it too. So again, it'll eventually probably take over check systems, just because it's advanced, and it's more advanced. And obviously, the more risk mitigation a bank can shield themselves from or embrace, obviously, meaning the mitigation side of it, that they're going to utilize. So yeah, to answer the original question though, no.
But who would check that? Like your credit unions, you said yes, they'll check it. But like apartment complexes, they have their own things that they check.
Check that. They wouldn't have apartment complexes wouldn't have that ability. They'll run LexisNexis and they'll merge it with a credit bureau report, right? So they'll run, that LexisNexis will have a public record search in it, and it'll be merged with the credit report in an effort to see if there's any judgments against them or evictions, multiple evictions that the credit report isn't reflecting. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because the credit report doesn't show evictions. It just doesn't. So
I'm pretty sure you probably heard on a credit board, if you freeze these things, you'll be able to remove them, which that's inaccurate. If you're thinking about that way, it doesn't work.
We talked about it in the previous cast, but yes, to go back originally to the original question, no, man, we don't get involved in checks. I don't even know. I haven't even heard about anybody being able to do it early warning because it's still relatively new, and I doubt it just because of the way technology is enabled. But as far as check systems, I don't know. I don't know if all the years I've been doing this, I've ever seen somebody effectively, consistently, as like a course of business, been able to even impact that. You know what I mean? Like I'm not aware. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I'm not going to act like I'm an expert on how to remove things from check systems, but that's not something we get involved in.
We don't get involved with that. We just get involved with helping you with your credit, financing, all that stuff. Someone on my Facebook just wrote, I believe things will start up slowly with social distancing being a large part. As time goes on, people will move closer, and over time, things will get back. This will take a while. Yeah,
I think there's good. Look, I don't think it's a unintelligent thought. I just think when they say long time, I hope there's like a LOOOOONNNGGGGGG ... right? It's going to take to get people. This is not something that happens in 3 months. It's not happens in 6 months. The only way that happens, right? I mean, look at it like this, and this is the only thing that you can possibly compare it to because it's another thing that left our society in a complete state of catatonic shock. 9/11, right? Totally different type of event, but still left us all in complete catatonic shock, right? From the economy to the market to our psychology. There's still people that are reserved about going on a plane. Think how long it took for the airlines to get back into real functional business after 9/11 for obvious reasons, right?
Yeah.
Think about how long it took so many other people.
Oh, with the people who check you, the what do you call those people who check you? PSA agents, something like that.
TSA.
Right?
I think it's TSA. Yeah.
TSA.
But they bulked all that up. But I'm just saying, just generally, just think about it, like 2001. I mean, there was a good number of years where people, not months, not weeks, still people that will forever be scarred by 9/11. This is going to be a similar situation. This is. I'm not saying it's going to take our economy forever to get back on its feet. I do think it's going to take some time. I do think we're resilient as people. I'm just saying that as far as people trying to assume that
Jay, a lot of people want to get to work. Jay, a lot of people don't like this stuff.
I'm telling you, I know they want to get to work. I understand they want to get to work, but the reality is that, like, you're talking about a situation where there's going to be, if not just like specific regulations put in place, like there's going to be preventive measures put in place by the government. You can assure that, right? Like if we get out of the other side of this, like when we get out of the other side of this and it starts to cool down, let's just say for a number of variables, some point, in the summer, right, or the end of the summer, they're not, and we don't have a vaccine yet. They're not going to be like, yeah, guys, go run out and go to concerts, go to sporting events. They're not. There's no way. There's no way. Because that's like dropping a piece of gas. That's like lighting a match on a pool of gasoline. There's just no way it's going to happen. And as a result of that, people can want to get out and go back to work, but there's going to be stipulations on bars. There's going to be stipulations on restaurants until there's a vaccine, and there's not going to be a vaccine for like 12 months. That's the earliest. They said they started trials on the thing that worked. I forget what it was called. And they started the first trial. The FDA pushed through for the first trial. They're in the process of the first trial. I believe in order for it to get approved for human consumption, there has to be 4 trials. These trials take a while because they get tested on human beings and they got to get approved. They got to be consistent before they can be sent out for human consumption. They estimated last week it was like 12 to 18 months for that vaccine at the earliest that they put in like 2 weeks ago could get approved. That puts us into next year.
Wow.
So there's going to be some kind of constraints. I'm not trying to be over negative here. I'm just speaking realistically. If you figure how it has to be discounted, right? Like you're not going to be able to go. There's no way this summer if you plan on going on a concert, you're going to that concert, kiss that goodbye, right? There's just no way unless and chances are, I mean, just because without that you're potentially running the risk. It's the same reason why China already closed down the movie theaters over there. Because they probably started to get a spike in the cases by putting people close to each other again, and as a result, they said no. And we're not going to make that same mistake. So I'm telling you, it's going to take some time. And I agree with what the person said, that slowly but surely we'll get back. Absolutely. But I think that slowly but surely needs to be understood, that it's slowly but surely. And if that time frame to get back to normal functioning, whatever our new norm is, expected to be like 3-4 months, I don't think that happens. And I don't think the regulation is going to allow that to happen. I really don't, until it's definitively gone. I think they're going to have to continue to put safeguards in place in order to prevent it from spreading again or reigniting again. And we're just going to have to adjust to whatever the new norm is. And then that's going to be it.
Someone we gave a quote to today who's thinking about purchasing a professional do-it-yourself, Andrew, wrote a comment. Hey, Gizzy, because of the deferred payment from the pandemic crisis, will it be easier to get better results doing credit repair?
No.
Like old late payments outside of new late payments that one might occur during the process?
Right, but this comes back. I've heard this 100 times. You made a whole cast about this, about the bureaus being asleep at the wheel, right? I mean, I still hear that now about are the bureaus working? They're probably not working. Like, of course they're working. I think most people have ruled that out, but no, I mean, it's not any different now than it would be normally. I mean, the responses are coming back. This has been going on since March. We send disputes out, a large amount of them on a daily basis. We're getting all the disputes back. I mean, the results it's an average situation. We're not seeing some overwhelming amount and we get good results. So you're not seeing an increase in percentage as a result of this. You're not seeing a delay in response time. You're not seeing any of that. It's all standard practice, and we're knee deep in the middle of it. So if the idea is that on the other side, that this is the peak of it, and over the course of the next 2 or 3 weeks, everything starts to wind down as far as the intensity of it. I mean, you would think that it's going to stay consistent as it was at the peak of it, which is that there's business as usual for the bureaus and the creditors. They're responding too. I mean, it's not like the bank can wake up and not have people working. I know they have people working remotely. I know that they're doing things to be able to still facilitate the customer service and the necessary levers that need to let a bank function.
And around my way, John, you got a schedule for the next day to go inside of the bank with someone.
No, they don't let you in the bank.
They don't let you in the bank.
No. I was. Now they open the drive-throughs. I mean, I was at one bank on Friday. They opened the drive-through at 10 o'clock. So I don't know who this is helping. So the other one, I went to one today. It was 9 o'clock. So I mean, it's case specific, but I don't know any of them to let you in.
No, you got to schedule to speak to someone if you want to like deposit money or do another type of transaction. You have to call them and you have to schedule in. Also, Andrew also said, I have a neighbor who owns a catering business that has been affected by the crisis. Will he be able to apply for the PPP? He is a very small business, and what steps might he need to take?
Yeah, I mean, I believe they needed to be, again, don't quote me, you can fact check it on Google, but I think they needed to be in business by January of last year, I think, or maybe it was this year. I don't know. They're accepting everything. The guidelines are so broad that they're willing to take anybody, but it needs to be indicative. I think they're encouraging everybody to apply. So I don't see the downside if he's really impacted by this, which a catering company sounds like they would be absolutely affected by this.
Yes.
And they can substantiate their loss. Obviously the payroll
and we lost John. Technical difficulties. Oh no, John is right there.
Encouraging, but They should still definitely do it if they're impacted. There's no downside. Doesn't cost you anything to do it, and it may help assist you, being able to move forward, I guess.
Did you say a website, Jay?
For what? For the PPP program? There is no website. You have to do it through a bank. So whoever his banking institution is, that's what I'm saying. It's not like the disaster loan. You have to do it through an institution, and they're telling people do it through your own institution where you have accounts. So let's just say, for argument's sake, this gentleman that he's referring to, or a female, let's say they bank at the Wells Fargo, they would go on the Wells Fargo site, and they would have to do what I described for Chase. For some of my clients on Friday, they would have to do that. Somebody would reach out to them and ask for the paperwork back, and they'd have to wait in line and all this stuff.
They said something about TD Bank North. You can't do it online. You got to go inside of the bank.
Yeah, I don't know anything about TD as far as submitting for these PPPs, but I know that everybody has to fill out a hard copy of an application, right? So no matter what, they're telling you, like the rep's going to call you, and the rep's going to tell you, send you a link so that you can fill out the application, and they're going to ask for like 3 or 4 things you got to send in, which are going to substantiate, whatever you're requesting. And again, I don't know how they're turning loans over 166,000 loans just from Bank of America in 24 hours if you have to submit paperwork, right?
Yes.
I mean, it would take a week to get 166,000 people's worth of paperwork and process it, let alone get the money out, right?
Imagine how many people they got to hire, or is it algorithmic?
No, this is not algorithmic. So it's not even close to this is the problem. This is why banks are backing out of it. It can't be done algorithmically. So, I mean, it has to be processed because they do need a certain amount of paperwork to be able to confirm that it doesn't turn into a giant scam, right? Meaning like people trying to just submit and get money, which is happening too. People that don't deserve it are trying to submit for it. People, because they think it's just some, that it's just some quick process that's not ever going to get substantiated. Listen, for anybody that thinks like that, I got news for you. Every one of these loans, however many get produced, will get audited once this is all said and done. They will get audited within the next year, and every bit of information that's sent over will get looked back on after. And whoever tries to play games, I promise you will get caught. And I guarantee there's not going to be a whole lot of sympathy for the people that submit fraudulently when they're taking money potentially from people that desperately need it, right? There's going to be zero sympathy when that time comes. So if you're somebody, because I had a conversation with somebody the other day who said that, he was speaking to some funding broker, and they're like, "Yeah, man, you just apply, man. They're not ever going to figure it out." Like the government coupled with these trillion-dollar banks are a bunch of morons, and the guy working out of the trunk of his car is smarter than them. I got news for you. That will ultimately happen. So you might get over if somehow, some way you work your way through it in the early going. I assure you, within the next 12 months. Every one of these loans is going to get audited because the banks are still taking risk, like I said earlier, on these loans. And they're going to have to book these loans, and these loans get reviewed. Every bank gets audited, fiscally audited, if not monthly, bi-monthly. And every loan they produce has to get reviewed by regulators. And every one of those loans has to be dotted and crossed. Now, granted, the uniqueness of these particular loans is going to be understood, but they are going to backtrack and make sure that everything adds up.
So John, these are – I'm sorry, I cut you off.
You're fine.
These are banks. Banks are in the business of making money. Who's paying interest on these loans?
The only people that are paying interest are the people that aren't either A, didn't have any other employees, or B, let go of people and they're still raising money, right? The people that don't qualify for the grant. And I think that grant scenario is going to get a little fishy too over the course of time. We'll see how that plays out. But those are the people that are going to be paying interest, and the interest is nominal. It's like I think it's 1% for 2 years.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
And the disaster loans are 0% for the first year, and then 12% every year after. So they're very favorable. But what I'm saying, so the key that they're trying to do right now is to just get the money on the street, right? But they will circle back to every one of these loans. And every bank, because this effectively, every one of the loans, let's just say somebody goes to Chase, takes one of these loans out, right? That goes on Chase's balance sheet. You understand what I mean? So that means that it goes right next to another loan or a different SBA loan that wasn't a disaster loan, right? They all get reviewed. They all get audited at a point in time. This is right now, there's no time for them to go through the regular underwriting. So they will eventually come back and book every one of these loans the proper way. It's the only way banking works. And it prevents money laundering too. So they do that for a reason. So I'm telling you, for anybody who thinks they're going to get over on this, trust me, it's not going to happen. If there's even enough money to get over on it for it. But I know there's people, because again, you hope stuff like that doesn't happen, but unfortunately it does. In situations like this, when there's real people with real businesses that are really getting hurt, then you got people trying to get over on it.
Yes.
And there's a limited supply too, right? So for right now, this first tranche, it's $350 billion. Sounds like an enormous, hellacious amount of money, right? The problem is that it's going to go quick. So there's people in there applying that shouldn't be applying, and they're somehow going to get it because they figured out a way to work it around, only to get caught later. That's going to be money that could go on to somebody else, right? And it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. It's, there's bad actors everywhere, so it's just part of the business. I'm just saying the thought process that I heard the other day when they said, I'm like, you got to be kidding me, man. I mean, that's to think that you're going to get over on the United States government is just. And a loan, it's a fully documented, as far as like you're putting your full name, your business name, all that stuff. It's a full tieback.
That's the thing with, like, let's say this catering company, Jay. Catering people, they just get people to work or get employees when the time comes that they need to cater something. So they work on like part-time basis, the workers. But their owner may be the one who makes the food, prepares everything, and he just, 10 orders for the weekend stopped. That would have been $5,000 weekend for him. Right. So how does he gonna go and report this, and like, how does he project that he was gonna make this money? You understand?
It's not, but those PPPs aren't a basis of projection of revenue. It's based upon your overhead.
Okay.
And it's a percentage of your overhead. So they're not even getting into the revenue part. They're getting into the payroll, whatever your payroll was for that period, that month. And again, they're working off and it's going to be an average. And they're giving you, like I said earlier, they're giving you 250% of that. So it's going to be your payroll, including your own payroll if you pay yourself a salary.
Okay.
Any rent, mortgage, etc. for the location. And they're going to add that up.
A lot of home-based businesses, John.
I understand that, but you got everything you're saying I agree with. But the fact of the matter is, there's a lot of businesses that are in a location and are medium sized. Like I said earlier, anything that's a small business is considered anything 500 people and below, right? A lot of businesses that are 200 to 500 people. That's a big business in real life, right?
Yes.
200 employees. That's a big business. That's not a small business.
No.
It's a big business, but they call it a small business. So, I mean, when you look at something like that, you say to yourself, all right, well, that business, if they got 200 employees or 400 employees, the concern is that, banks like Bank of America are front running these bigger companies, right? The ones that turn over more volume and do more stuff. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. That's the murmur, right? Is that they're front running the bigger businesses to make sure that they get the capital they need, and whatever's left over is for the smaller guys. And, obviously that's awful in theory, but you just don't know, and it's going to be left up to them to do. But I assure you, they're going to do if they're not, wherever they lack on the front side of these loans in diligence, you can rest assured that they're going to do on the backside. There's not even a gray area. It's going to get reviewed in one way or the other. Now I'm talking about the PPP loans and the disaster loans. I'm telling you, they're good. They're not just going to be ignored. For the people that think that it's going to be some joke of a process and you can figure out a way to get over on the SBA and the banks, it's not going to happen. But hopefully that won't be too many people.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, a lot of people are in need, and a lot of people like being in their own business too. But they also look at the overhead too and think, is this really worth it? Should I go out there and just get a job?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's all relative though. Like, for instance, let me give you an example. Let's just say you're talking about some guy that, well, first of all, they're not letting. So let's just say this catering company is an independent contractor. He just does it himself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like his own catering company. They're not even letting them apply yet. They can't. They haven't. They have to apply at a later time. They're not allowed to apply with the other companies. So, like the small operation, like let's just say somebody. I don't know. I can't think of anything better off the top of my head. But let's just say there's a guy that owns a small window tinting company, right?
Okay.
And his only overhead is himself. And let's just say, for argument's sake, he pays $400 a week, right? And let's just say his location is $400. So that's it's $2,000. They're going to lend him $5,000 after it's all said and done, right? So it's all relative, right? So it's assuming he gets the money and it gets approved, he's going to get $5,000. I mean, he's not retiring off that money. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Like, this isn't retirement type money. This is like, we wanted to get you through what we thought originally was 8 weeks of economic disruption, which more than likely is going to be significantly longer, right?
Yes.
So in a lot of cases, there's money coming through for the people that did keep the employees on and did everything that they were asked of. They're just going to be reimbursing themselves more than likely. And then waiting for the next one to come out to hopefully help them get out in front. Because chances are they're going to be playing from behind, waiting for this money to come through.
And the banks, they already got bailed out, correct?
Not for no, because they're in good financial footing right now. They got bailed out 07, 08, yeah, well 08 or 09, but not in this capacity.
But the 500 billion that just like 2 weeks before the stimulus.
No.
That said the 800 billion or something like that, remember?
The banks have gotten nothing in regards to this. There's nothing for them to get. They're incredibly well capitalized right now. Well, for right now. But that leads into this point without getting too far off topic here. But
okay.
As of today, the mortgage servicers are now asking for federal money because so many people are now requesting deferment for the mortgages. Yes. Now, you say to yourself, when the Mortgage Bankers Association came up with this idea, they probably did the formulas and the arithmetic to determine how many people were going to be affected by this and how much impact and pressure it would put on the mortgage services, right? And if you're now seeing, we're not even a month in, we're not even a full month through these deferment. It just started in April. It literally started 3 days ago and 4 days ago. And they're already asking now the government for funding to help backstop them because so many people are asking for deferment. Now you ask yourself, you hope it's all people doing the right thing, right?
Yeah.
But that seems like a pretty large miscalculation by the servicers if this money wasn't. It just seems really weird to me that now they're requesting it, right? It almost seems like they were shocked by how many people asked for it, and I mean, we're getting dangerously close here because I got clients who are sending me stuff where their auto loan lenders are offering them to defer their payments for 4 months.
Whoa!
On a whim, they're not even behind. They're saying, "Listen, you want to defer your payment for 4 months? You're eligible." 4 months.
And deferred is going to put the payments in the back of the loan?
No, it says on the back of the loan. Back of the loan. So they wake up in 4 months and they only owe 1 month.
This is the thing but people are confused. There's a lot of misinformation out there.
There's not though. It's a lot of fear mongering. You got to be talking about like Facebook or something. Because in real life, like if you do use real like concrete reference sources that like people know what they're talking about, it's not that gray. It's an evolving situation, right? Like they're changing. This is all happening so quick, and these banks are having to readjust their risk models because it's going out longer than they anticipated. So when you see an auto loan lender say, "Look, we'll defer your payments for 4 months," that's telling you what? That's not telling you that they want to not take payment for 4 months. That's them saying it's going to take at least 4 months to get this economy running again.
Whoa!
At the earliest. So you're talking about what's that? I mean, just using that model, okay? Which was a large auto lender, probably one of the largest in our country. You're talking that's April, May, June, July. That puts us into August, which goes back to what I was talking about earlier. And honestly, I don't know how we're getting dangerously close to a socialist economy, right? I mean, I understand why the government shut it down, but then you're going to start getting people that are going to be incredibly unmotivated to get off the couch.
Once afraid. They're afraid.
What's that?
They're afraid. Plus, non-motivated.
I mean, if this keeps continuing, you don't got to pay. Your mortgage is paid. Your car loans don't have to be paid. I mean, chances are there's going to be another check that's going to come out to the people, and whatever stimulus is coming up next, because it lasted longer. So now the government's cutting checks. It's starting to smell very much like Italy. We're starting to look a lot like a socialist economy. Not that Italy pays, their banks pay for their auto loans or anything, just the checks coming out periodically. But at the same time, it's just starting to look, that's another thing that people are going to get accustomed to, I think, if this drags on. So the quicker we can get this back going, man, the quicker we can, we all can start moving. The people that were shut down can start moving again. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And we can start getting that element of the economy back functioning again, which I think will be the best thing that ever happened. But, again, that was an eye-opener to me when I saw 4 months, and that was a couple of days ago. So before, I told you on the podcast last week that I had a client that sent me over that they offered 2 months then. That was a week ago.
Yes.
That was a different lender. That was GM 2 weeks ago. And GM obviously they finance a lot of GM-related vehicles. GM is one of the biggest auto manufacturers in our country, so applied to a lot. But somebody must have recalculated that risk formula, because that went from 2 weeks to 2 months to 4 months in the course of 7 calendar days. And that's probably going to be the new norm. So I just think that now I don't know if everybody. I'm not sure if everybody gets the same offer. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I'm not sure how that's arrived at. I don't think we'll find out until the dust settles. Every week is a new. That's why we try to do these coronavirus casts every week, because in reality, it's changing on a day-by-day basis. Different concessions, the specifics, everything.
But at least people got an understanding with this one that if you need to get a PPP loan, you could just go to your bank that you bank with, and they're gonna communicate with the Small Business Administration. You said, right, Jay?
Yeah, you have to do the PPP loans through your your banking institution, whatever that is. So if you're Wells, you referenced TD earlier, PNC, all of them, they all offer it. Now, I know Fifth Third, if anybody listening deals with Fifth Third, if Fifth Third, I'm fairly certain does not. I think they backed out of it because they didn't like how it was all being set up. So as a result of that, it is what it is, and you probably have to stay away from them, but just check to make sure that nothing's changed over the last couple of days. But yeah, you have to put the PPP through one of the approved institutions. With more than likely, if you deal with one of the retail banks, they're approved and you can pump it through them. But it's going to be the same process I described, where you put your information, your company information, and somebody from that institution is going to have to call you back. And who knows how long that's going to take.
I see. It's 2 weeks. You say you're projecting, right, John?
2 weeks what?
That someone will get back to you?
No, I think I told my clients that I think it'll probably be they'll get contacted by the end of this week.
Okay.
That means they still have to send the paperwork over to the person, which means it's going to have to get faxed, because banks don't take correspondence any other way, which means that you're going to be one fax of probably 145,000 other ones, right?
Yes.
Which could obviously help them shake the tree a little bit and drag it out. Yeah, I didn't get your fax. Yeah, I didn't get your fax. And then you're stuck in this disgusting cycle. If anybody's ever dealt with banks before, you get stuck in a disgusting cycle that you have to follow up every 45 minutes, but you're not going to have that opportunity. So it's a good way to really slow the process down, right? It's a really functionally good way, by not making it technologically advanced in the process, to slow the process down by making people send stuff over through fax. Yeah. I don't even know why fax is still a nominal way of communicating, quite honestly, like outside of an emergency, but evidently it is. So,
well, at least somebody's in the bank, or somebody's looking at those fax coming in, preparing them, putting them to the side. I'm sure they're overwhelmed, but
no. I don't think you understand the degree to which they're overwhelmed, though. I don't think people do, because I don't think anybody really understands what the SBA. Half the people that are applying for the SBA, I don't think they understand how they work, and I don't think they understand how little of a lot of these retail banks' business is the SBA loans. Look up, for anybody listening to this or that decides to listen to this, look up the highest volume SBA loan producers of 2019. Okay. Most of them, the largest ones, like one of the ones that I send clients to a lot of, I got a really close associate of mine that's one of the larger lenders there, and he's on the committee, is Celtic Bank. They're a small bank. I have a couple locations. They're based in Utah. They're the third biggest SBA lender in the country. You don't see a lot of the retail banks where a lot of these loans are going to get come through Wells or Chase or any of them. So now you're taking organizations that didn't typically do a large, top 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 volume.
Yes.
But just the natural volume they would do because they're that big of an organization, they probably just get roll off. Now you're dealing in a situation that now they're being stuck having to pump all this volume through a portal and a medium such as the SBA that they'd never used before, or that they didn't really use regularly before, or to the extent of speed. Most of the SBA loans, if you've ever talked to anybody that tried to do an SBA loan through some of the bigger lenders, it's just not their specialty. Lenders like Celtic and otherwise, that's their specialty. So they're have very good relationships. They turn these loans over quick. They're familiar with the portal, all this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's going to be another thing that's going to cause disruption. But look, for those of you that can wait, the money will 100% come if you're able to get your application in and the money doesn't run out. You will get it. It's not if it's when, if the money doesn't run out. So I don't want to sound all doom and gloom, but I just think that, I think sanding down some of these expectations is the proper way to do it so that people can make the right financial decision for themselves, right? Somebody applied Friday, and they're expecting to get the money today. Well, they obviously didn't get it today, right? So now they're waiting for tomorrow. Then they're waiting Wednesday. Then they're waiting Thursday. Then they're waiting, they got earlier today. Yeah, they said they're releasing the emergency disaster loans later this week. Maybe. Maybe. I don't know where you're at that, but I have banking contacts all over the country, some of the biggest banks. I didn't hear that. But maybe. Who knows? That's how confused it is right now.
I just don't understand how hard it's going to be for a pizzeria where, they got servers and everything, and they got to let those people go because all they're doing is deliveries.
Oh, almost every restaurant I see now does carry out.
Yeah.
That's it. So you got a cook inside. You got 2 young kids that are just facilitating the charging of the card and walking the food outside. That's it. I mean, you've effectively laid off your entire staff, and that's where pizzeria, that's part of hospitality, right? Tourism and hospitality. So, I mean, they're the ones that are the 11 million that are collecting unemployment right now.
Wow. Well, John, can you summarize what we talked about today in 1-2 minutes?
Oh, man, it's a lot more than, it'd take me a lot longer than that. But
what the subject was for.
Yeah, I mean, the purpose.
In conclusion.
Absolutely. So the purpose of us doing today's particular podcast, obviously this coronavirus situation is an evolving situation.
Yes.
And if you go back in the cast for the last 3 or 4 weeks, 5 weeks we've been doing them, you can start the first one and see how it's evolved. Because we started one the first 2 weeks it really started to really sting us as a country. And, as it continues to evolve, we want people to get the proper information that, they may not get otherwise. I think one of the biggest problems that exists right now is people are getting a lot of their information on Facebook for obvious reasons, right? And as far as forms of legitimacy, and it becomes much more of a melting pot of misinformation than it does of any real concrete or definitive information. So if anybody hears information on some kind of an unlegitimate source, go look it up in like the Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, New York Times. Look it up there. They're legitimate sources. If you see it written in there, if you see it, referenced in there, CNBC, Bloomberg, these particular sites, when they write stuff in there, that's coming directly from the source itself, meaning the government, meaning the banks themselves, such like that. If you want to get specific information, lobbing around this misinformation, conspiracy theory stuff, it convolutes things and it confuses people. And unfortunately, misinformation does not work in the financial world. That's part of the reason we do these casts, is to try and eliminate a lot of the misinformation, just deal on a factual level, right? And really inform people that otherwise may not have that factual level, may not have that understanding. And it just allows them a little bit of a leg up, maybe a tick up in the leverage that exists against them right now in an effort to try and allow them to make the best decision possible. So that's all this was, to try and discuss the SBA loans out there, which, because they just were started Friday, and that's the buzz right now, and more than likely it's going to be the buzz for the next month. at least in the early days of it. We're trying to give you the best and most up-to-date information relating to it. Now, like we talked about a number of times on this, things are evolving at a rapid speed for finance. I mean, typically in the banking world, things don't evolve this quickly. It's much more slow, much more methodical, much more telegraphed, but that's not the case right now. So next Monday, we could have a different conversation about the same topic because they changed something here or there. Correct. More than likely, though, it'll be the same. We'll be talking about something else more than likely relating to it or something different that's on our minds at the time. But,
and we're not just, okie dokie talking. We're educated. We speak in facts. Okay.
I lost you. Say that again.
I said we're not just, talking okie dokie, whatever.
No, please. I mean, just on the credit side, alone. I mean, we're almost 10,000 clients into this. I mean, we help every demographic in almost every state of this country. We help military people overseas. We've seen every side of this business, or possibly is, from the school loan and the garnishment side to the tax side to the finance side. I mean, ask any client that we have. We literally, in most cases, take them from A to Z. We clean the credits, always the first step. Then we walk them through their funding so they achieve their goals. We wouldn't have and we do it at the right terms, under the right sustainable rates, etc. for them. And we help position them that way. That's not because we're morons. It's not because we just get, we just happened to, the wind blew right the one day and it worked out for one client. I mean, when you're dealing over a course of close to 10,000 clients, it's because you know what you're doing. Correct. And in an effort to get that education, you need to educate yourself on being able to do it for someone else. We have the knowledge to talk about this stuff. I told Gizzy this before. I mean, anybody is welcome to fact check anything I ever say, because I don't need to talk anything other than facts. And we're doing this completely unselfishly for the purposes of trying to educate people that may not otherwise have that necessary education, right? Or clarify things that may not necessarily be clarified. For people to understand so that they can make sense out of it and make the best decisions for themselves. So by all means, if you know anybody that can be helped by some of these casts, by all means, please forward them over, because I think it can help a lot of people. Yes, please like and share the video, or wow the video on Facebook. Okay, John. So this is the cast today. Hope you guys learned something new. Got some more. Hey, what's up? Some people are logging on now on YouTube, but tune in. Hopefully next Monday we'll have a new topic that we're going to talk about. Since we're still going through this Rona stuff, we're going to be pretty much talking about that. Unless there's another topic that concerns credit, we'll be speaking about that too. But stay tuned to that, and hope you log on again. Again, John, thank you so much. Got it. And we'll see you later. All right, man. Take care. Bye. So like John said, a lot of people started credit repair with us on a daily basis. Just want to say thank you. Listen, this Rona stuff, please, this stuff is real. My mom's pastor passed away from complications of COVID. I'm on my timeline on Facebook is all you see is, my wife passed away, my grandmother, my aunt, my best, is real. Be safe, protect yourself. It's not crazy if you're going to go out there and go to ShopRite or Stop and Shop with your mask on, with your, gloves or anything, hand sanitizer, whatever precautions you take them. This is scary. You see, I was having my hot tea right here just to keep this warm. So y'all don't look crazy to me. I got to pick up my elderberry and my sea moss and my dirty water, which is called dirty water because there's a whole bunch of stuff in it, but it makes you sweat. It has cayenne pepper. I'm on it. I'm not close to a 5G tower or anything. But anyways, I am staying safe, staying inside because I got a responsibility. I got to come through for you. So I understand that I gotta be here. Okay. So more education for you guys. Again, those of you who have lost someone through COVID here in the East Coast, I feel for you. I pray for you. And listen, let's all get along and let's all get together and really come through from one another around this time. Okay. So anyways, my people on Facebook, I'll see you guys later. And peace out. See you later.
Facebook, YouTube. There you go, YouTube. Where is YouTube? Okay, and stream. See you later.